Welcome to ChatNAPT with AI Chatbots Chuck Howie, sponsored by the National Association for Efficiency Testing, a podcast about all things metrology. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, Howie Zion. Good.
Hey, Chuck, how you doing today?
It's a gorgeous day here in Little Rock, Arkansas. I couldn't be happier. It's going to be 76 degrees in February, so it's a tough day to be where I'm at. Well, we got a good guest today. Another great guest is going to join us here in a minute. Mitchell Jones is going to be joining us. It should be a very interesting podcast with him. You know, he is just been recently promoted to the Chief Sales Officer at IndySoft. And, there's a relationship. Mitch is, besides having his full-time job, he's also on the board of directors. He is the director in charge of marketing for oversight for NAPT. And he's been extremely active helping out the people that do our marketing for NAPT, providing a lot of great advice to that. And so I'm excited to have him on the podcast this morning.
Yep, he has been somebody that we've known for a little while, right? Been in this industry a little while. We've definitely played some golf rounds with him. Pretty decent golfer, wouldn't you say?
I think he's a really good golfer. Yeah, makes me mad because he's so young and he can still hit the ball.
See, that's more of a compliment coming from you, who has been a very good golfer, right? Excellent pro golfer.
Yeah, years
versus me, who sucks at golf. I'm just out there for the ride. Yeah, I'm just out there to enjoy the weather and nice company and have a couple of drinks.
Maybe we can get Mitch to talk about when he and I teamed up at one of your events and he and I shot 10 under together.
Oh yeah.
That was he and I both played really well that day. And
I can do that on a scramble with you guys playing.
Yeah, he could be part of the team with Mitch and I and be part of that 10 under.
Yeah.
we did
my music.
You stick to your music. Exactly. So it's all good. But he does love his golf. I think he'll tell us in his answers once or twice. The word golf will come up as well.
Oh, I guarantee it.
But we're excited to have him on the board. Like I said, he's done a great job so far. He's been on the board going about 6 months now. Mm-hmm. We're tickled pink. He's doing a great job in the marketing. There's some things that are happening between IndySoft and NAPT that we might touch on today as well. We'll see where the conversation goes with that. And with that being said, I think now look at this as we're talking about the devil. There he is.
Your ear must have been burning.
Howard, Chuck, how are you guys?
Good. Glad to have you on.
Oh, appreciate you having me. It's always fun to enjoy a little banter back and forth with you two.
Look at that. You have your musical instruments in the background. I got my drumsticks. Let's go.
Ah, look at that. So this is actually not my office. This is one of my colleagues' offices who's a developer. So and he programs all day, and I think he plays the piano at night when everybody leaves. So I'm still in his office for the day.
Yeah, it all fits together.
Nice. Well, Mitch, we did a little bit introduction to you before you jumped on board with us. We identified that you're with the IndySoft organization, and you are the Chief Sales Officer for IndySoft. And what's really, I think, the first question I'd really like to get solved is, you don't come to us like most of the people around from the quote-unquote metrology trained, female trained, military trained metrology technicians. You actually served in the Navy and you were an intelligence officer. How do you go from being an intelligence officer in the Navy to being the chief sales officer for one of the greatest, calibration software companies in, obviously United States, but you guys sell internationally as well. Can you, that whole thing, I still haven't figured that out.
The world wants to know.
Yeah, I'll bridge that gap. So first of all, being an intelligence officer or anything, certainly an oxymoron statement. So I don't fit the bill of that title by any stretch.
Well, hold on. However, the title of the show is ChatNAPT with AI Chatterbots Chuck and Howie. We bring the artificial intelligence.
You created it, yeah. So all right, so I came to this. This was in, I guess, 2008, maybe 2009. It's 2009. Made the decision that I wanted to get out of the Navy. And, like anyone, you start applying for jobs and kind of what I did, I was in a path of applying for jobs with multiple different federal agencies. I wanted to be an FBI agent, a NCIS agent, a ATF agent. I started applying for all of the feds. And, that process takes a really long time. And at the time, I was living in Cuba on top of that. So I couldn't do some of those things. But I got, at the end of that, I guess fast forward, my brother-in-law was working for IndySoft at the time, and he knew that that was what I was trying to do, was apply for jobs with federal agencies. And in any case, he said, "Well, can you come work for IndySoft in the short term? And we know it's not long term. It's really just to help us out. We need a software trainer who's willing to travel." And I obviously I was gone like 300 days a year, so being gone 6 weeks a year for IndySoft was no big deal. And that's how I got into this. So my job was to come in, learn our product, and then go help customers get onboarded with our product. So I had to kind of put myself through a metrology 101, if you will. In fact, actually, I think I read to even understand what this was, the metrology handbook, and I know that now there's several revisions later, but metrology handbook 4 is still on my bookshelf at home. So that's how I got into this. Yeah.
And you read that cover to cover?
As much of it as I possibly could. I mean, I started with our user manual cover to cover, which at the time was like 1,200 pages. I think now we're probably up to 2,500 on our software. But back then, that was my focus first. But then as I got out there, I had to learn, well, what is this product actually for? What does it solve? So that was just one of the most useful reference tools that I had at the time.
Look, you've increased your intelligence quotient. We had a previous podcast where we talked with Paul Reese, and we were talking about IQs. Have you ever taken an IQ test? Do you know what your IQ score is?
No. And if I did, I probably would not share it with the two of you anyway. So
I shared mine. You'll have to see.
Well, you're a better man than me. I would not do that.
So then the question is, how much do you retain after you read something of that length with that much detail, right? You don't have to answer. It's a rhetorical question. But a lot of people can't retain it. Some people can, and that's amazing.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know. I'd say I probably went back and referenced it numerous times. In fact, I still probably do on every now and then. But I'm also a learner who I actually do learn by reading. Some people hear it, some people do it. Mm-hmm. I'm one of the few that probably, if I read it, I'll remember it. If you tell it to me, I won't. And actually, you can ask my wife that. If she puts it in an email or a text, I pretty much remember it. But if she tells me when I'm walking upstairs,
interesting phenomenon, because I can remember number sequences for whatever reason. I've got my credit card number memorized, my wife's social security number, my daughter's social security number. You have my credit card memorized? That's not good. But I can't remember dates to save my life. I can't, sequence things in order, and I don't know why I can't do that very well. That's just, it eludes me. But numbers, I retain it, especially if I see a name or a number, right? I can retain that. Learning by doing, I love that. A lot of people learn by doing, to your point. But you're good at just seeing it and remembering. That's good.
Yeah.
He definitely cannot learn by doing, because he's been, there's a certain activity that he's been trying to do a lot that we'll get into a little bit later that he still struggles with. But I don't want to bring him down till we get end with the show. So Mitch, we need to figure out now, to expand on that. What do you do at IndySoft? What is your daily responsibilities? Can you tell with the audience exactly what you're responsible for and what your mission is there at IndySoft?
Yeah, most definitely. So I currently carry a title of our Chief Sales Officer, which is a newer title actually for us. Since we've been honestly, IndySoft's been in a hyper growth period since really 2018, 2019. I think we went from being a dozen employees to now I think we're sniffing almost 70 employees.
And you guys are so far right now.
6-year run. Yeah. So it's been a crazy growth period. Added developers, implementation staff, sales reps, international operations, distributors, all these different things. So my primary job is to essentially, grow our sales, is to bring on new customers, mature existing accounts, put products in front of customers that, take our existing products and align those with our customer base that help them essentially, either get more calibrations done per hour with less bodies or make more revenue for their laboratories. So that's my role, is to run our sales department and our sales staff. That has not always been the case. I think I mentioned I came to IndySoft in 2019, started off doing software training. From there, I think I went into operations management, project management, implementations. I think I've done everything, but write the code itself. And then to this day, I would say I still I do. My title may be one thing, but I do what our customers need out of me. I think that's kind of the way I've helped grow our business. And but yeah, that's what I do, Chuck, and at IndySoft, run our sales operations.
Nice, great. Well,
Yeah.
the thing that I'm curious now about is you've only been in the business for 6 years, and you've already established yourself as a player. We call a player who knows a lot of people, very influential in the business. You're well respected, and so I think that's a huge accomplishment that you've come into this business, which is brand new to you. You, like you said, you had to learn metrology, and now you've really embraced it, and it's become quote unquote your life, second only to golf.
Sure. Well, that'll
How to
be the
win,
first of
how to
many
win
golf
friends and
references, I
influence
guess.
people. You must have written that
But
book or read it, right?
well, so I came into the industry in 2009. So I guess I've actually been in metrology IndySoft for 15 years. But I didn't really get out there and really get to know customers at the level of where the industry's going, understanding what the industry needs. My job the first 7 or 8 years of IndySoft was just to get it installed, get it deployed, and then move on to the next. I wash my hands. The last 6 or 7 years is where I've been trying to actually grow the business, grow the brand, align our brand with the metrology community as well. And honestly, I think coming back to your question, I think what's kind of made me successful is really I try to align myself with people who I think are industry leaders as well. So if you look at some of the people when you see me at a conference, people who can be a wealth of knowledge for me, which fountains can I drink out of essentially. So I try to hang around those people and grow my own skill sets because, as one person, I certainly won't know everything. I can't. Where I picked up that trait, probably in the military, probably in college, probably just a multitude of places, but I just try to surround myself with people that I think are industry experts and seek their guidance and their wisdom and, drink out of the fountain that they're pouring out of.
Yeah, you've got a great personality as well. You're easy to get along with, easy to get to know, right? And that's a big part of it. And you don't let others' knowledge intimidate you. You just dive in and get comfortable, which is key.
Well, and by no means, I'll never be the expert in some of the actual metrology specific functions. That's where, you are, Howard or Chuck. But I mean, heck, I'm talking to 2 Woodington winners right now on this phone call. I would have never guessed that 6-7 years ago. Here I am getting interviewed by you guys. So this is awesome.
Yeah, nice. Well, let's kind of steer the direction towards what our sponsor. So you now have taken on the role as well as a board director. And speaking on behalf of the board, we're tickled pink that you've been on the board. And I would point out to our audience that you've been extremely active in your role as director of marketing. Can you expand on that and what you're doing as a director of marketing on the NAPT board of directors?
Yeah, most definitely. So I'm kind of in an advisory role and strategic advisement role. How do we grow? IndySoft's done a great job in growing. How can we apply some of those successes in a strategic way and an advisement way to NAPT? I think NAPT is the industry leader in proficiency testing. I think the roster, the manpower, the labor, all the things that go into it creates an incredible offering to your customers. And I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to help and grow that. Obviously, I've got relationships with several people on the board and your past boards. And I've learned that there's nothing but great things to say. And then what really made me resonate and really want to be part of this was my customers, who are also NAPT's customers, do nothing but speak highly about NAPT as well. So if there was another brand or an organization that I can attach onto and help, I obviously want to be doing that for somebody who's like-minded and operates similar the way I do. And I think NAPT and the commitment to metrology, the commitment to doing things the right way, actually aligns very closely to how we operate at IndySoft and me personally.
That's
See,
fantastic.
Howard, that's the kind of spokesman that we need for NAPT right there. I think it's perfectly said.
I got an idea. Why don't we make him the board of directors for marketing?
I like that. That's good. Yeah.
I told you I surround myself with only smart people. Look at you guys.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. When we were sitting down and trying to figure out, okay, we're going to recreate the board for NAPT. And who is it that's on our wish list of people that really would cause the company to benefit?
Mhm.
You were our first pick. You came to mind
Wow.
first, and you were the first one that we appointed, which speaks volumes to your ability, right? Your intelligence, your efforts, your experience. Glad to have you on.
Well,
he-
I'm flattered.
well,
I
truth
certainly,
is, Mitch,
yeah.
he was Howard's first pick. You were my second pick.
Overruled.
Oh, well, Chuck, that's only because you can't beat me in golf anymore. I understand.
No,
You still
no,
want to be the
no.
best golfer on
There's
the board.
thing number
I
one in
understand,
golf.
Chuck. I get it.
Howard, what did I tell you? Did I not tell you he would bring this up?
I'll pay in my $20 after the show.
Yeah, exactly. But since you brought it up, Mitch, how many
Yeah.
times have you shot 67?
Almost every time I play, actually.
And then
But
which
then I
field
have-
that
Yes.
night?
But
I
but
shoot
then I have like
67.
4 or 5 more holes after
Yeah,
that usually.
I
That's
shoot
the
it
thing.
every time.
Every time I play, I shoot a 67, Chuck.
Find us at falls.
Just
Exactly.
how many holes do I have after is the question.
I did share though, Mitch, with Howard about one event that you and I were partners with, where you and I both played fabulous that day, and we just shot
Yeah.
lights out. You and I together shot 10 under, and
it was a good round of golf that day. Yeah, that was good.
yeah, we both played well. When I screwed up, you stepped up. When you screwed up, I stepped up. It was just a fabulous, what we call ham and egg in the business, and that was a fun day.
Ham and egg. Yeah.
Neither one of you asked me what my score was.
Oh. Well, Howard, we've seen you play, my friend. We
I'll
love you.
just say that lunch was good.
If you ever want to win a buck, just play around the golf with Howard, and take the over on the number of balls that he carries in his bag and he shoots that day. So
Yeah.
let's get into our what we like to call our questions and answers. So
Yes.
this is our next segment of our podcast. And so Howard, would you like to ask the first question?
I like to go with my stand-up question. Your 4M moment. What is in your short career in metrology or related to metrology, your most memorable metrology moment to date?
Oh gosh.
Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's probably going to go back to some of the almost like 6, 7, 8 years ago when I was helping implement our software. And when you're in the middle of those things, like it's down to the wire. And this has nothing. It is metrology driven, kind of in a way, but like I was at this particular lab in Southern California 6, 7 nights. We're up till midnight, 1 a.m. And it was like almost like a military operation where we were in the trenches together, just trying to get the migration complete, trying to get all the configurations, all the training prepared. We're ordering food in. We're doing whatever it took just to get live, because their old system was really about the server was going down. They had to be migrated all. Timeline got crunched, and
Literally the 11th hour.
Yeah, literally it was. And it was, it was a 9-month project. We come in and do it shorter, but me and the owner of that lab, and we were just up to, I just remember that. It was like, it literally felt like a military operation where like the deadline came in, the enemy was newer now. Like it was like, so was that anything to do with the metrology level? Probably not. Not so much in your sense, I think, but just one of the things that really stands out. And what's crazy about it is that person I was with in that conference room that week, we're like BFFs now in the metrology world. I mean, we give each other some of the biggest, longest like bear hugs, and we see each other, and I give everybody a hug, but he gets a special one, because like he was in the trenches with me, and
that's it.
I don't know. So it was just a really cool experience. And I'll never
That's a
forget
good
it,
moment.
actually.
Yeah, it's a great one. Great
Really
one.
sweating it out, but you pulled it through, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Well, let me change the gears a little bit. Let's talk a little personal for a minute, then we'll get back to the business side. So we've established the fact that you love the game of golf, and it probably takes precedent, maybe like really close second to your family. But if you had to have, we'd asked you about your best moment in metrology. What is your best moment playing golf?
Obviously I've been on a million different golf trips, seen some really great golf courses. I'd probably say, hole in one is going to be up there. I think with some of my best buddies, that's certainly up there. I think, I don't know, in 2020, the COVID year, golf was the one thing that no one could really do. So I won player of the year at my club, and we had a player shootout. So it was like, 20 guys, 21 guys tee off on hole 1, then night or 20 guys tee off on hole 2, 18 guys tee off on hole, and the survival of the fittest. So I ended up winning that. That was cool because that was like, you win the points all year. But honestly, for me, it's probably the fellowship of golf. Actually, like I can think back to, gosh, Chuck, being at Pelican Hill in California with your son, you know what I mean? It was awesome. Howard, you were there that day. Like, I'll remember like certain shots. They're like good and bad shots that people hit, actually. Like I'll remember when we played at your charity tournament or the one that you helped sponsor, Howard, Chuck, you had almost 2 hole-in-ones on 2 par 3s that day. There's only 4 par 3s, and you hit them like this close. So I remember stuff like that. But Chuck, you even said, Mitch, we thought it went in, and you were like, I'm not walking up there to hit that in, Mitch. He's like, do you think you can actually make that one? Like, I'll remember that little funny comment you made, so it was good. So I think it's just the fellowship and the courses you play and the people you're around. But there's so many good things in golf.
Ever meet any pros?
So actually, the place where I play my primary golf out of is the home club of a guy named Bradley Hughes, and he actually won the Australian Masters. So he's a teaching pro in my club. So I've met him, and because of him being there, there's a lot of PGA guys and live guys that come and get lessons there. So I'll see him on the range and like kind of go, oh my gosh, that's what it's supposed to sound like when you hit a golf ball and stuff like that. But I don't really. I'm not friends with him. I will say I am friends with Billy Haas. I shouldn't say that I'm not, because he played on my AAU basketball team in high school and middle school. So I know Billy and Jay Haas, which is kind of cool. This from afar,
So, just like you say, you surround yourself with people who are the experts in metrology, but you're never going to know that level. Same with me in golf, right? I surround myself with people who are really good at it. So you've traveled a little bit. You've been here and there.
Yeah.
What's your favorite place that you've ever eaten or type of food?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer this 2 ways. The favorite place I've ever eaten is actually it's probably a place called Tony DiNapolini's, and it's actually a couple blocks outside Times Square. It's just the most authentic and amazing family style Italian, and I do love it. I'm a pasta guy. I love all the sweets. So that's probably my favorite restaurant. I would actually go out of my way to go eat there, and I don't really like going to Times Square. I love New York, but I go there just to eat that pasta.
Yeah.
My favorite food is honestly, it's probably cereal. I am just a huge fan of cereal. I absolutely love it. It's so unhealthy, but I just don't care. Like I'd rather.
So you're like
cereal over an ice cream bar.
like what your kids shouldn't be eating. You're eating that stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
What is it? Tricks? Is it Cocoa Puffs? What?
I mean, since you asked, right? It's I think Honey Bunches of Oats with almonds would probably be maybe my top cereal.
Yeah.
It's got some sweetness to it, a little bit of almonds, so at least I feel like it's halfway nutritional. But honestly, I'm a Lucky Charms guy, and I'm a Golden Grams guy.
Charms,
if I want some sweets, that's the 2 routes that I'm going.
Hey, that is coming up.
That's it. Guilty as charged.
So you've got your unhealthy one and your healthy cereal, as much as you can call it that. My healthy cereal is Special K pecans. That blend, which I can't find anymore, it's delicious. I just love it.
Really?
My unhealthy one only comes around Halloween every time because it's Count Chocula. I love Count Chocula.
See, I like the strawberry one of that. What is it?
Oh,
I can't think of the name of it, but I know it when it comes out because I go to the store and I just grab them all and take them all home, and I love them.
Can only get once a year, and it's going to last on the shelf forever. Yeah,
I mean, if you were to ask me though, if I was going to get the electrical chair, what's my last meal? It probably is a buffet of cereal. I think that's what.
Because you're a cereal killer. I get it.
Yeah, that's good.
That's why you're there in the first place. All right, Chuck, what's your favorite cereal?
My favorite cereal, believe it or not, is oatmeal.
Oatmeal.
I like oatmeal. I like
I thought you were going to say grape nuts. Love that crunch.
No, we only stock here, believe it or not, Honey Nut Cheerios for my kid.
Yeah.
And in the wintertime, I'll eat oatmeal all the time. It's I just like how it stays with you for 10 hours. You don't need one little bowl, but it's just full of nutrition for you, and it's easy to eat. So I like oatmeal.
To each his own. I like a plain rice cake, which makes no sense because it's the plainest thing in the world. but I love it. You know,
Oh, rice
So-
is delicious.
That's
Yeah,
why you're
rice
so
is-
healthy.
Jasmine rice.
You know, you can tell you
Me?
like rice cakes. You're healthy. Look how fit
Oh, I
you are.
dip it. I dip them in peanut butter though. That's not healthy.
Okay.
No.
I love me peanut butter. I'm not a peanut butter fan.
Let's
But yeah, I
let's
got to tell you, Chuck and Trin bought us a rice maker years ago. I forget when it was.
Ooh.
We use that thing all the time. I love
Yeah.
jasmine rice. We
Jasmine
usually
rice
get it
is
at
my
Trader Joe's.
favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love jasmine rice.
I
I
can just
should
eat it
tell-
plain or whatever.
I should tell you the story about my wife and rice.
Okay.
Okay, real quick, and then we gotta get back to Mitch. But real quick, back when we were dating, you know, at the time my girlfriend came over to my apartment. I lived in California, and my wife is Asian, by the way.
And
And
your
I
wife
was
knew
making
about your girlfriend?
no, stop. I was gonna make chicken and rice for dinner.
Yeah.
And so she came home early, and I said, well, here, you make the rice. And I had a rice maker, a pot, you know. And so she went ahead and made it, and then the chicken got done, and then the rice went off, and it came out. It was terrible. It was the worst rice. She used too much water. It was just like mush.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, not trying to be, you know, crazy, but all our friends, which a lot of them were, you know, from the Asian community, you know, tease me that the white boy can make better rice than the Asian chick. And so to this day, I constantly tease my wife on the fact that I make better rice than she does. So
That's
because I
funny.
had to remake it after the fact. Okay,
Hey, she made it perfectly all those times you made, you know, the Korean style ribs.
well, she's learned now. My wife now,
Yeah.
believe it or not, when we first started dating, she
a
couldn't
good cook.
boil water.
Yeah, she's a
Now
good
my
cook.
wife is a unbelievably fabulous cook. She is
Wow.
just phenomenal what she can cook. It just blows me away how she's become this, you know, couldn't make rice in a pot, and now she makes
Literally.
everything. You guys have both been treated to my wife's, you know, cuisine.
Oh, yeah.
cooking.
Yeah,
I've
most
had that
definitely.
meal,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I was actually telling you last week in Huntsville that the apple pie that she made, and I think one of our first board meetings was probably one of the best desserts I think I've ever had. So it's you're lucky. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I'm lucky. Let's get back on track. Mitch,
Okay.
what do you foresee as maybe, you know, things that are changing in our industry? You know, is there anything, the next big thing coming on with IndySoft, with NAP? Where do you think the metrology community is going?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be, you know, gosh, I hate to use the same thing, AI, you know, but it is, it's coming in some shape, some form, lots of shapes, lots of form. I mean, heck, I've even got a golf putter that says it was made with artificial intelligence. It doesn't help anything, but it's just kind of a marketing thing. But in the metrology world, yes, it is coming, and it's coming in the form of like directly impacting IndySoft, you know, DCC, the Digital Calibration Cert, the MIL committee, you know. Providing the ability for equipment and OEMs to populate databases so customers can do something with that data in a clean, consistent way. AI is going to be a big part of that. You know, imagine a future state where, you know, let's say Transcat outsources a piece of equipment to a third party or to an OEM. They get the cert back. Imagine like it's just optically scanned and all that data goes into a place where Transcat can do something with that database with no manual or no human interaction. That's coming, you know, and it's all starting with, you know, having digital calibration certificates that are, you know, in the same structure, same format, using a universal taxonomy and things along those lines. That's coming. I think other ways too, you know, Bluetooth's getting more and more involved. And when I first came into this industry, all we had was GPID and I guess RS-232 and, you know, and then became USB. Now you got, you know, Bluetooth pipettes. They're pulling in data and sending it out to a software. So that's going to continue to happen. Digital transformation for us, but I think AI in a lot of various different ways for sure.
I love how that future vision looks based on what you're saying here. But clearly, to your point, that requires standardization of data, right?
Correct.
That taxonomy
That's right.
has got to be put into place and people have to adopt it.
It does.
And then we can
I
get
think
there.
too, and I actually think like it'll be challenging, but if all these places have all this data, right? So even if your systems are not 100% compliant to whatever the standard is, just have an output method or an input method to a DCC format, you know. So there's a lot of ways that you can once the standard is set, people can adopt to it. They choose not to adopt to it, then you have input output options to that format. So there's going to be, I think that's all where it's going. I think it's beneficial. I don't think I don't think there's a single con or it can't hurt the industry in any way. I think it's only going to be great when that happens. So
Agree. Yeah.
Well, I know the software that we write at NAPT is they use any AI a lot already. There's a lot of that being used. It's on our website for whether it's a search engine, whether it's finding out information, whether it's solving a problem. Yeah, our
Right.
programmers are definitely, enhancing as much as we possibly can because we have to harness its capability as well. We have to stay, we're behind the schedule. We're not like anywhere IndySoft is with it, but we are aware of it. I couldn't agree with you more that, the future is AI.
Yeah. So to do that, there's another factor, and that is keeping up with the latest things, right? And keeping yourself educated.
Right.
I know you're a strong proponent of education, Mitch. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, no, gosh, 1,000% agree. I've been in the classroom, I feel like all my life in various different ways, compliments of the U.S. Navy. Yeah, that's why I think in this industry, there's the Measurement Science Conference, there's NCSLI, there's the regional meetings, there's the tech exchanges, and IndySoft's a big supporter of these because this is how we educate our community. When there is something new coming out, when there's something even new available yet, this is something potentially in a roadmap or a pipeline, not just for IndySoft, but for all of us in this community. There's only so many ways we can educate each other. So we're huge supporters of it. I am personally a huge supporter of education, which is why you see me at a lot of these different conferences because I believe in education for sure.
Yeah. It just made me think of, the conferences that we go to, and they've changed over the years, right? They've been at great points, and not just attendance, but the effort that goes into putting them together and the training syllabus available, types of courses you can take. And then there's been years where it's been kind of weak, right? Low attendance and all of that. I recently attended the NAM show, and the NAM, if you're not familiar with that, is the National Association for Music Merchants. And this show took up the entire Anaheim Convention Center.
Wow.
Wow.
Huge, right? I mean, just 3 days of nothing but walking to the exhibit floors and different training and lots of music venues going on at each of the exhibits. It was a lot of fun for me. Very entertaining, obviously, because they're selling everything that you would need to be in music production, right? Not just instruments, but cables and lighting and sound, music and equipment and all of that type of thing. But it was a lot of fun. But what was good about that is to see a different venue for a different industry and how they put that together. My gosh, the amount of work that went into that, because they had 3 main stages where performers would perform each night or even on the weekends, shows throughout the day, plus all these little exhibit booths where they had people entertaining as well, and or giving conference speeches or training events or whatever else. To see how that is done differently than we have at NCSL or MSC is probably something if our board members on those different trade shows haven't been out to see other events. It doesn't have to be NAM, just to see how other shows are run, right? Just to get ideas and keep it fresh and keep it moving. I just think that would be a benefit to keeping that going for future.
I'm going to argue with you, Howard. I think the bigger problem we have with the shows is that the third-party CAD labs are teaching technicians how to press buttons. We've had this conversation before.
We have to automate to be efficient, right? And
well, yeah, but
profitable.
The technicians, they're not going to the conference anymore. The middle manager's not going to the conference anymore. The internet has ruined the conference, and that's ruined the level of education that a lot of people have access to. And somehow, we have to make those conferences more entertaining, more worthwhile, more training, if you will.
Well,
maybe
that's what I was after with this, right? If we're going to have them, make it better.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the product's got to be better than what it currently is. That's the problem.
Agreed.
And so how do we teach, and how do we as the community share that with the people who are managing these conferences? They're not going to listen to me. I'm a retired old fart now. They don't care what I say anymore. They care about Mitch. Mitch is the one that's got to speak up and say, "Hey, let's do this now."
Yeah, I wish I had an answer for that. I think since I've been in NCSL and MSC, I guess the first one was probably 2017 or so. I've certainly watched the attendance based upon certain cities, bigger, smaller. COVID got in the way, scheduling conflicts get in the way. As we know, the NCSLI and MSC, when they get too close together, it gets kind of challenging for a lot of people to
Yeah.
get funding to go to both or one or the other. And not just from an attendee's perspective, but even just us as exhibitors. So it's becomes, we all work off of budgets and cycles. So I think that how do we make it better? I think you're right. I think there's going to be, a lot of the longtime exhibitors and participants and sponsors probably gonna have to get more engaged. Probably gonna have to maybe do some surveys to figure out what do we think can be more beneficial for everybody. Because if we don't have enough people there, if we don't have exhibitors there, enough attendees there, then there's no reason for the conferences at all, and that's not what we want. Because then
Right.
education and the community as a whole loses in that situation. Not us as IndySoft, not NAPT, not Transcat. It's the community of metrology loses. Because this is our only opportunities to, in a mass way, to provide education. So I think you're going to see probably, what I hope to see is several more people from the third-party industries, IndySoft are included, wanting and volunteering to participate more in these organizations, for sure. Because it's a big burden too when you ask someone who's, in a major Fortune 100 aerospace company or life sciences company to be taking time out of their schedule, because their stockholders certainly can care less about the Measurement Science Conference or NCSLI.
Right.
But
Yeah.
so it's hard to allocate time. I recognize that, and actually I'm very thankful for the hard work that a lot of my friends that are running the Measurement Science Conference and NCSLI appreciate all the effort they do, because that's all volunteer time too. So I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
No doubt.
Well, we're starting to wind down on time, Howard. So we need to get one of your best questions of the day
Oh boy.
lined
Oh,
up
boy.
for Mitch.
My gosh, I give all my best questions. I have nothing left to give except
Uh-oh.
travel. Let's talk about travel.
Travel. Okay.
Where is your favorite vacation spot? Where do I need to go next?
Oh man. I think there's probably 3 or 4 places I've been in my life that stand out as like trips that I would do again and take anybody there. I think Costa Rica, I had a fantastic time. I went there on my
I would love to
honeymoon.
go there.
It was kind of an adventure. We flew into San Jose. We took a boat to get to some other boat to get onto a bus. Ended up at a resort, kind of almost by Nicaragua. It was awesome. Like it's very adventurous. A lot of outdoors. It was awesome. But you also had the ocean and the temperatures. I think from a cultural enrichment standpoint, somewhere like maybe Poland, I think stands out to me. I had a great time in Warsaw. I had the opportunity to visit Krakow and Sad. So that's historical as well. I think one of the best places I've ever been in my life was Singapore. Gosh, that was great. And that was actually an IndySoft customer visit there, which was fantastic. And then, and going way back, I lived in Jordan, and I think that's one of the most prettiest countries I've ever been to. I had the opportunity to live in Aqaba for a long time, and you had Petra, you had the Dead Sea, you got Wadi Rum. So there's some fantastic places. So I don't know, if I was to catch you in an elevator and you said, unlimited travel budget, I'd probably throw at you, if you haven't been to Jordan, if you haven't been to Singapore, Costa Rica, those, and if you want to, I think those would probably be at the top of my list, Howard.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
So what activities did you do in Costa Rica? I had a friend that went down there and did rappelling down through the trees that have kind of rotted out in the middle, but they're still stable.
Yeah, so we did that. Well, not repellent, the zip lining thing, it was kind of back before zip lining was all over everywhere, but so I don't know how safe it was, but we did that and I fell in love with it. We did horseback riding. It was awesome, and you do horseback riding in the United States and they're like, hey, you can only go so fast. You can only, kind of limit you, put a helmet on.
Right.
I mean, I had this thing going. Is like the guy was like, "You got to get back here. You got to stop." And I had done some training with horses a long time ago. So and even my wife was like, "What are you doing? Like, get that out." It was awesome. So and then like trampling through the water, the ocean. It was awesome.
So I've only ridden a horse a couple of times. My wife will tell you some funny things about us in the Poconos riding horses, but whatever. I think, is it true that the trot is less comfortable than a full gallop, right? Gallop is pretty smooth.
Right. Oh yeah.
So it's all uncomfortable, actually. I don't think there's a comfortable way to ride a horse, I think, in my opinion.
Well, that's not true. I used to ride horse when I was young, and I'd rather go full bore than doing a trot, because a trot, it hurts,
It bounces you
Yeah,
around.
it's on the no, you're right. Yeah.
Because
But,
when you ride,
I was on my honeymoon, so I can't tell you how many cocktails I had, so I didn't feel it. Yeah.
Or that the horse had.
To ride a
Yeah.
horse correctly, you gotta ride the ride. You gotta work the saddle. You gotta have your body in the right position, and the horse goes up and down. So,
Yeah.
well, listen,
Yep.
Mitch, I promised you that I'd love to continue talking, but I made you a promise that we do a hard stop. I know that you got another sales call you got to go to, so
Yeah.
we're gonna call this a day, I think. And
Okay.
I personally can't thank you enough for taking part in our little
Thank you
podcast.
so much.
This is
On
fun.
behalf of the board, I can't thank you enough for being part of NAP. We're looking forward to more good things for you. And on a personal level, I'm looking forward to getting healthy again and kicking your ass on the golf course.
There we go. Hey, so speaking of schedule conflicts with the conferences, right? NCSL this year is going to be end of July, Cleveland, Ohio, right? The Hilton,
right?
Which is right on the heels of my annual golf outing, right? The 4-day event.
Oh, is that
So
right?
hopefully you guys can make it to that, and then we'll go to Cleveland after that.
So with that being said, I'd like to make my usual thank our sponsor, NEPT, for hosting this and allowing us to give us this wonderful media to share and education our people in the metrology community. And, always proficiency testing is the only way you can really measure your technical competency. So I'm telling you, sign up for it, do it yourself, but participate in proficiency testing because you need to prove it. With that being said, we look forward to you on the next podcast. And we will talk to you later.
Sounds good.